Hello. Today's podcast is titled Just Be Kind. This podcast is one that I've been thinking about doing for a long time. And I guess I didn't do it earlier because there were some other topics or subjects that people asked us to do a podcast on, was one reason. And then two, I was doing like this pilot program on myself to see how effective living this way would be. And if it was sustainable, and if it was 100% guaranteed to work. And so while I'm the only case study that's done it so far that I know of, what I found is I found it to be incredibly effective and it works 100% of the time. And it's just be kind. When I look back on the way that I lived my life before I started doing the practice, obviously, as I mentioned before, there was a lot of suffering, a lot of judgment of other people, always looking for what could be better, not completely satisfied with this moment, always striving for the next goal. And I was missing out a lot on what was right in front of me. And that's one way to live, but there is a better way to live. And what has been really helpful was just thinking about just be kind. Oftentimes I hear people talk about, how challenging the world is or how challenging people are. And I think to myself, especially to Key 2.0, as Key 2.0, that this is my path. However other people choose to live is their path. This is my path. And I am committed to staying on it no matter what. If I begin to stray a little bit, hopefully the practice will reset me and I'm back on the path. I've given a lot of people in my life permission to help me stay on the path. And what does staying on the path mean? It means not defending, not explaining if my ego or an idea that I have is being challenged, if my integrity or what I call my integrity is questioned. Of not defending, not explaining, but holding that peaceful space to allow people to say, think, or do whatever they choose to. And for me to stay open and not to close my heart, but to stay open no matter what. And it takes practice. In the beginning, it was very challenging, but more and more, it gets easier. And coming back to just being kind has made it even easier to do it if I remember to do that. So I'll give you a couple examples. I've heard people kind of talk a little bit about that the world is always changing, or someone is always creating challenges out there that threatens your ideology or your values or how you think things should be. And you can take a situation with politics, for example, with the coronavirus that's going on in the pandemic, whether we're masking, not masking, whether it's vaccinations or not vaccinating, whether it is civil liberties being infringed upon or doing what's in the best interest of public health. And for a lot of people, these could be very contentious subjects in which it's very easy to be so identified with your opinion on the way that you think things should be, that it robs you of the ability to still see the humanity in the other person. And what happens is you confuse what they're saying, what they're doing, their behavior with who they are. And what has helped me not have to go through this litany of like steps to get back to, okay, remember the humanity, is just be kind. No matter what somebody says, just be kind. I look at things regarding gender, in which people have fought very hard for and gallantly and advocated for everyone being treated equally and equitably, no matter what their gender is. And so people have to sometimes go through the steps. No, this is not fair just because of gender to treat people this way or whatever. And I'm just saying that I don't need to go through all that. I'm just going to be kind. Or when it comes to gender identity, if people are stuck on like, which pronouns do I use? I want to do the right thing. How do I do it? I don't think that I should have to remember what pronouns to do. No, if somebody wants to be referred to by a specific pronoun, I'm choosing to use that pronoun. Why? I'm just being kind. Like, I don't have to figure anything out. I don't need to know how they came to think this way or believe this way or what. I don't need to know any of that. I'm simply going to be kind. Somebody's religion is different than mine, or spirituality, or they think the whole mindfulness as wellness thing is a joke. That's cool too. That's not my path. My path is to just be kind. When it comes to a race, I had a friend when what happened back with Mr. George Floyd back last year in 2020. That was trying. I saw he was trying to understand what was going on. He was not a person of color. He was trying hard to be compassionate. And so we were talking about, what happened. And he said, I saw the videotape and it was horrible, Keith. It was tragic. I kind of would like to know like what he did before the tape started rolling. And my my ego almost was like, well, it shouldn't matter what he did before. And then I remembered myself and I was like, just be kind. Just be kind. Like, I don't have to respond or comment or defend what anybody else says or thinks or anything like that. And when I said just be kind, it settled me down. And I was able to say to my friend who is Caucasian, I would say, imagine this scenario. You get a phone call in the middle of the night and they say, Mr. Smith, your daughter's been involved in an accident. Now the phone is ringing at midnight. Your daughter's been involved in an accident. Is your first question of the authorities, where was she? Who was she with? Was she speeding? Was she using her phone? No, that's not your first question about what she was doing prior to the accident. Your first question is she okay? That's because you are so connected with the humanity in your child. And my goal, or what I want to do, is be connected to the humanity in everybody, even if, or especially if, we disagree, we look differently, we come from different backgrounds. None of that matters. And what helps me not have to go through that entire example scenario for my friend to kind of see himself in the same scenario, or the same situation in which he's able to quickly identify with humanity, are just two simple words. And no matter what shows up or what people do or what they say, no matter what happens, you do two things no matter what. Just be kind. Or there's three words. Just be kind. That's it. Or be kind. Once you do that, nothing else is necessary, period. That's it. So for what's happening in our country with the division that's happening in some pockets, I mean, for me to see the division, honestly, I'd have to turn on the news but since I don't turn on the news, I often forget there's any division unless someone says it. But apparently there is, because a few people have told me that there is division out there in our country. But the quickest way to slice through that is if everybody chooses to be kind. Period. That's it. There's no extra footnotes or anything that needs to be added to it. Just simply be kind. And so I'm choosing to lead my life in that way. And in doing so, I've had the most amazing experience with people. Like, it has allowed me to see the good in everybody, regardless of how they show up. I still am choosing to be kind. That's been one of my most gratifying, and it's been one of the most restorative practices that I can imagine doing, and has been for me. When I am being kind, what I find is that I'm not stressed about what's going on, because I'm not tied up in knots that somebody hasn't done something a certain way, or that I'm being treated unfairly. Like, none of that's coming up for me, because I'm just being kind. And it's almost as if how other people show up doesn't really matter. I mean, if I had a preference on how they show up, I like them to show up as being kind too, but that's not my call. And so if I'm going to live this unconditional life, I'm looking for the tools or behaviors that are going to make doing so pretty easy. And being kind is really easy because it's one step instead of 5 steps of let me understand somebody's background, where they came from. Oh, they were in a broken home, so that may have been a challenge. Or they grew up with this kind of ideology, so that's a challenge. Or they grew up in this kind of neighborhood, whether it was one that was challenging, or they grew up one that was affluent. That had an impact on how they were conditioned to believe or act or think this way. I can go through all 4, 5, or 10 of the reasons why a person showed up in this moment this way. But that's a lot of work. There's an easier way. Be kind, period. So if ever in doubt of how to interact with someone or approach a situation, just be kind.